I have to admit that a few years ago, I would have been very embarrassed to come on stage in Davos and speak about climate change and protection of the environment. Because honestly, a few years ago, maybe it was a mistake from the Green parties, but the protection of the environment was always presented as something expensive, boring, and threatening our lifestyle. And protecting the environment and solving climate change was a big problem because we were asking people to make a sacrifice, to have less mobility, less comfort, less economical development. Today, we are in a time where it starts to be possible to fly around the world in an airplane that has no fuel, that has a perpetual endurance, can fly forever. When André flew from Japan to Hawaii, he was 5 days and 5 nights in the air, non-stop, which shows that without fuel, we can do better than with fuel. But it's clear that the transition from a fuel society to a non-fuel society will take quite a long time. So we have to understand something that we can do today. Today, we are very, very demanding for IT technologies. We want the latest phone. We want the latest computer, the latest app. But we still have technologies for energy that are 100 years old. Combustion engines lose 73% of their energy for only 27% efficiency. Light bulbs, 5% of light, 95% of losses. Insulation of houses, heating or cooling goes outside immediately, requiring an incredibly high energy bill. Distribution of energy, networks for electricity, 100 years old also, losing a huge part of the energy that has been produced. So we see that when we speak about reducing CO2, CO2 is actually not the problem, CO2 is the symptom. As a medical doctor, I know that we have symptoms, but if we focus on the symptom, we lose the origin. The origin today is the incredibly high amount of energy that we lose because of outdated technologies. Imagine everybody would agree, and especially the governments, to put legal frameworks to replace these outdated technologies by technologies that are efficient. Electrical mobility. The motors of our airplane have 97% efficiency, 3% losses only. Light bulbs, 95% of efficiency on LED. Insulation of houses. You can have energy-neutral houses. Networks, smart grids. When we speak of smart grids, it means that the other grids are stupid? Yeah, probably. At least they're old. And this is where we have to understand that this transformation is going to bring job creation, profit, economical development. So when you hear that climate change will oblige people to reduce their economical development, especially in the emerging markets, it's completely wrong. It's exactly the opposite. The adventure today is to replace these old polluting devices with modern technologies that exist today. So when you see in the title of the session today, flying around the world with no fuel or no fear, it's true that what really frightens me is to live in a world where half of the energy we use is lost. Flying in a solar airplane brings much less fear. So let's do something in terms of economic, in terms of finance, in terms of technology, in terms of industry, to bring these solutions to the rich countries to be richer and to the poor countries to become richer also, allowing them to make this development with the clean technologies, like the one we're using on Solar Impulse. And André is going to explain how, with a plane like this, we can defy the impossible. Because what we have to do in our world is to understand that what we believe is impossible is actually not only possible, but it can be easy and profitable.
Good morning to everyone. That's true that I think we can say today that everyone knows that we have to decarbonize the world. But when you start talking about ambitious plan to develop renewables, to develop the clean technologies, you will very often hear people say, it's impossible. And that's exactly what we heard 12 years ago when we started the project. And what I would like to do is to share with you some thoughts that we made at the time when we heard, in fact, this statement. So 12 years ago, Bertrand had this idea to fly around the world without fuel, without the dependence on fossil energy, using only renewables to propel the airplane. So some number of things became clear immediately. First of all, that we had to cross oceans. Second, if we would cross oceans, it would take many days, many nights. So that we had, and we needed an airplane which should be able to get its energy every day, but use it in such an efficient way that it can fly through the night and still be in the air the following morning. So energy efficiency became the key, in fact, of the entire project. Explain why, in fact, the airplane is so big, bigger than a 747, simply flies better. Why it's so light. We need to have a very light airplane to be able to go through the night. So when we came to this conclusion, our first reaction with Bertrand was to contact the aviation industry. And we said, that's what we need, that's what we want. Can you build this? And very quickly they came back with the answer. They believed that it was impossible. But we were sure that there was a way forward. So what it meant for us, first of all, that we had to do it in a different way. Of course, on one side, use different technologies, but I guess also develop a different kind of organization, different mindsets, maybe different values, different culture. And let me give you two short examples. When we designed the airplane, we looked at each part. We tried, of course, to make them extremely light. So you design it, you use software, you use sophisticated technologies to simulate what's happening. And of course, then you test this part. And when you test it, if it doesn't break, normally you are happy. But I was not, because it meant that the part was too heavy. So send it back to the drawing boards to try to make it lighter. And if you look at these ribs on the wing behind me, we had 10 iterations. We started with 90 grams, we went down to 50 grams. But beside the fact that we saved weight, I think what it really meant is that we changed the paradigm in the way we were thinking. We didn't think about saving kilograms, we started to save grams. And this was a critical step for the entire organization to understand in which field we were operating. The second thing I was worried about was that I didn't want to miss any good idea. And I wanted to be able to go away from the boundaries that we set ourselves. So I started to hire people from very different backgrounds, with very different experience, to try to cover the largest domain. So an extremely diversified team. And I'm sure you realize that immediately it was a nightmare to manage. And to give you one example, we built this airplane using carbon fibers. So I looked for the company who was the best using this material. And it ended up being a company which designed boats, built boats. The best boats, I agree, because they built the two Alinghi's boats which won the America's Cup for the Swiss teams. But they had no idea about aviation. So when I presented these companies to my engineers said immediately, you are crazy. They don't understand anything about what we are doing. It will never work. And when I presented my engineers to this company, they said they don't understand anything about this material. They will never get the benefit out of it. It took me 2 years to build the ridges, to build the respect. But what happened was it took more time to develop the organization than to develop the technologies. So we pushed the limit of the technologies, but what was important was to push our own limits as individuals, as human beings.
I think you can understand by that if we want to innovate, if we want to be pioneers, if we want to create and to achieve the impossible, we don't need new ideas. New ideas are not important. If here we all close our eyes for 1 minute, we'll all come back with a lot of new ideas. And what are we going to do? We're going to kill them one after the other. It's too expensive, it's too dangerous, I might fail, people will laugh at me, I might take a lot of time to reach it. And 10 minutes later, we will end up exactly as we were before. So new ideas. When you see the exploration world in the 20th century, climbing to the highest mountain, was it a new idea? No, it was a dream of humankind for thousands of years. Mountains were there, but nobody dared to climb on the highest mountains, not to destroy the gods, not to disturb the mythology that only gods were allowed to live up there. Flying in the sky. It was a dream of humankind also for thousands of years, but it was prohibited also to make a competition with the gods. It's not technology that made the first airplane fly. The first airplane was made out of wood and cloth. The Egyptians could have flown 5,000 years ago. Leonardo da Vinci could have flown with his flying models, but he knew he would have been burned by the church if he had tried. So he was not crazy. We understand that innovation is not a new idea. Innovation is an old belief that we leave behind. If we understand this, we can go very far in changing the world, in improving the state of the world. Because normally we are on a straight road. We have our conditionment, our education, our experience, our learnings, our dogmas, our paradigms, our certitudes. They keep us in a straight road until there is an obstacle. And when you are in front of the obstacle, you cannot avoid it, and you call it a crisis, a disaster, a catastrophe, or whatever. What is important is to use the metaphor of ballooning. In a balloon, you are pushed by the wind. You are pushed in the same direction, at the direction and the speed of the wind. You're a prisoner, like in life. But you learn that you can change your altitude to find other winds which have other directions, other speeds, at other altitudes. And this is what we should try to do in life also. If we want to be innovative and creative, we need to change altitude in our education, our profession, our vision of the world, in our psychological, philosophical, and of course spiritual understanding of life, in order to find other influences, other solutions, other answers that will bring us in different directions. But for this, we need to drop ballast, like in a balloon. A balloon will never climb if you keep the same weight. So in life, we also have to drop ballast. Our ballast is called certitudes, paradigms, beliefs, all what keeps us heavy. We believe it makes us stronger, but it's wrong, it makes us heavy. When we throw it overboard, then we can start to explore all the different directions, all the different levels. We're not prisoners anymore. We start to be free. Because freedom is not when we can do everything. We can never do everything. Freedom is when we can think everything. When we have all the options open, like in a firework, all the altitudes, all the directions. And what is crisis management, entrepreneurship? What is achieving the impossible? What is creativity, art, adventure, exploration? It's when we explore this vertical axis, all the ways to think, all the ways to act, until we find the one that will bring us in the direction we hope. But this will be a decision. It will not be the consequence of our past. It will be the decision for our future. But if we are afraid of the unknown, we might stop. That's a picture I did during the balloon flight around the world 16 years ago. It's the window of the capsule, frozen by the moisture of the night. On the other side, you have a sunrise. But you will never see the sunrise if you don't accept to go through the ice. So some people prefer to suffer in the ice they know, rather than to take the risk of going through the ice to see what there is on the other side. What I can urge you to do is to take that risk, because it's worth it. The risk of going through the ice This is the moment of rupture that obliges us to leave behind the ballast that prevents us to move ahead, and to put ourselves in this moment of awareness, of performance, of concentration, to find new solutions, new answers that we did not have before. And like this, we can move ahead. We can achieve the impossible, and we can fly around the world in a solar airplane.
So to cross this ice, we need, as individuals, to have the right level of energy. And for me, in fact, to have the right level of energy is to have the right attitude, the right mindset. I guess you may have heard or you understood that last year, in July, Solar Impulse flew over the Pacific, 5 days, 5 nights, the longest flight ever done by any type of airplane with a single pilot on board and using only sun as a source of energy. And when I did this flight from Japan to Hawaii, people started to ask me a couple of questions. They asked me, aren't you afraid from this duration? Are you going to fall asleep and never wake up? But I looked at it completely differently. And for this, you have to realize that when I was a boy, something like 10, 12 years old, I was extremely inspired by pioneers who made the aviation we know today. And I told myself that some days, I need to sit in one of these cockpits and try something completely different. So for me, this flight was something special. So what I did was, and what I understood, and what I felt, was that 5 days were going to be too short. Too short to go through this experience I wanted to make. And I needed to enjoy every minute of it. And when I arrived in Hawaii, I arrived around 10 o'clock at night over the island, and I decided to land at 6 o'clock the following morning. To be able to fly another 8 hours, to enjoy, knowing that this would be, soon becoming history, and I needed to enjoy this very, very special moment. The second question that people were asking, aren't you afraid, in fact, to be drawn down in the Pacific? To be lost, to die? And I tell you, we are not crazy people. But I think we prepared ourselves extremely well. And when you prepare for the worst, it's a way, in fact, to put the anxiety away. And it's a way to be less afraid about what may happen. And let me tell you a story which happened 3 years ago when I flew from Washington to New York with the first airplane. At noon, I was flying over the Atlantic coast, waiting, in fact, to get the possibility to go to Kennedy Airport, and a helicopter came and to make some pictures of the airplane. And as soon as it got close, it told me that I was losing part of the undercover of the wing. So they made pictures, sent it to the control center. Of course, was shown to the engineers. And the first things I got from the engineers, a few minutes later, was that they were surprised that the wing did not disintegrate yet. A few seconds of excitement, as you can imagine. So I prepared, in fact, to jump out. I organized the cockpit, and I went through the drill, in fact, what I had to do in case I needed to jump out. How to jettison the cockpit, how to fall, how to open the parachute, how to get into the water. And I told myself, if you have to do it, you will know how to do it. So if this happens, you better enjoy it, because you don't have the possibility to jump out of an airplane every day, especially over the Atlantic. But I told you, this calmed me down completely. And I was able, in fact, to complete the flight another 9 hours until I was cleared to land at Kennedy late at night. But what it told us is that when you are well prepared, it helps to put the pressure away. It helped to go into the unknown with a different mindset. And even being very conscious about every step. And when we are very conscious about every step, in fact, the unknown becomes even attractive. So that's what we experience, and that's what we experience as explorers. And I think everyone in this situation going into the unknown can do exactly the same. Thank you very much. Okay.
EHang 184 is the safest, smartest, and eco-friendly low-altitude autonomous aerial vehicle aiming on providing medium-short distance transportation solution. Early in 2013, EHang started a disruptive and revolutionary plan of making this new generation of autonomous vehicle. This vehicle is set to match 3 philosophies: absolute safety by design, automation, and sync flight management platform. In 2011, EHang's founder and CEO Hua Zhi's best friend Chen Ji deceased from a flight accident. Shortly after, Hua Zhi's helicopter coach also lost his life when a helicopter malfunctioned. Those 2 accidents erases Hua Zhi's determination of designing an absolute safe aerial vehicle. In 2013, Hua Zhi dropped everything, starting from designing bigger motors and augmenting his flight control system. In 2014, Guangzhou EHang was founded and commercialized the Ghost Drone 1.0 as a consumer product. And at the same time, EHang 184 project continues. With a reunion with its alumni and old buddies in the industry, EHang established its core engineering team associated with EHang 184 AAV that included Sun Xun and Liu Renping, whom Hua Zhi worked together back in 2005 and built the first coaxial double-rotor helicopter in China. This is how we started. This is the uncultivated land that we use for test flights. During the raining season, we can only fly inside. Sometimes we test the AAV in the dark of the nights. It doesn't always go with what you expected. We took the data, analyzed the root cause, and get back to flying once more. The journey of EHang 184 is paved with obstacles, but we keep making unremitting endeavors to successfully achieve the design KPI of prototype during the test flights. And this leads to the official project kickoff of EHang 184 AAV. EHang designed and developed our own propeller dynamic testing system. This is how we have done it. EHang attracted the best talents to work on structural design, industrial modeling design, and manufacturing delivered by top composite material team. All part of EHang 184 are designed and produced by ourselves. Here comes the official testing for EHang 184 chassis, group of engineers on site, troubleshooting and reload. We have the application designed for EHang 184. After setting up the flight plan with a single click, user can take off on any location, sit, relax, and enjoy the flight. Yihang will always keep in mind of its humble beginning, put our heart and soul with the products we build, absolute safety by design, automation, and sync flight management platform. You have our word. Once we begin, we will never give up.